The Green Nurse Podcast, Clinical Conversations. Welcome to Clinical Conversations at High Noon, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We're here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good or be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. And here is a little bit about what we do in the cannabis space as clinicians and nurses. And then we're going to jump right into this very special
Change the paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship. And what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
It's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers.
Love that. Growing in health and growing in cannabis. My name is Sherry Mack, and I'm the Vice President of Nursing at Holistic Caring in the Green Nurse. And I am a cannabis patient, nurse, advocate, activist, and a very passionate podcaster here to change the paradigm of healthcare. And I'm here with Nurse Elizabeth, who is the CEO and founder of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. And she does oversee the ship. So Elizabeth, tell our audience about the 4Ds and the 4Ps and our solution, and then we're going to jump into this very special podcast.
Sure, Nurse Sherry. It's a privilege to be here with you today. And, we built this ecosystem of, coaching and programs and vetted products to solve the barriers that are out there for patients, right? And so what are they? I coined the term the 4Ds because we had to overcome that, right? So disconnect between the providers and the patients and the dispensary. Nobody's knitting together the dots and the delivery system. Disorganization. There's 38 legal states and no federal we've just got a patchwork of state laws. A real distrust, right? People don't know this industry, the products, etc. It's all new. Is it really regulated? Is it safe? And then dosing. We know that this works best with clinical care and judgment, with nurses and doctors actually working to guide patients and to talk about the pharmaceuticals that most people are on. So what we've done is we've built process and professionalization and including providers and then products that are vetted so that we're able to take this marketplace to the patients and to the clinicians that we're onboarding as well, saying that we've got a system and it's okay to try cannabis as a medicine now because it's going to be something that is safe and effective, and it belongs in a modern toolkit of healthcare options.
Absolutely. And to join the network,
okay,
the ecosystem, free, network.holisticcaring.com. right? Join the network, the ecosystem.
It's a free community. So we've got our free introduction to cannabis programs, and then all of our paid programs too, training for healthcare professionals, and then patient programs. So, and all of our events, all of the past clinical conversations, and monthly support groups, etc. So please join the network and join us.
Before we get started on today's clinical webinar on the ABCs of CBD, Nurse Elizabeth has a message from one of our sponsors.
So let's talk about Bloom Hemp. Bloom Hemp is women and nurse owned. It's organic USDA Organic Hemp CBD that is grown in the mountains of Colorado. It's one of the leading providers of hemp in America, and it's tested third party for potency and purity and cannabinoid profiles to ensure that it's safe and going to be effective for people. Bloom Hemp is proud to offer a free nurse line and a free email care plan with a short intake. So you can call the nurse line at 970-404-HOPE or 4673 and speak to a nurse during USA business hours on how CBD works in the body, why you might want to take it, and then how to get started on something that's personalized for you. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Good stuff for sure. So scientists worldwide, Elizabeth, are considering the potential for CBD to emerge as one of our greatest potentials to favorably affect health. And regardless of politics, we've barely scratched the surface of what CBD research and discoveries will yet uncover. So today's clinical conversation is on the ABCs of CBD and what you need to know. And we're going to get started right now. So ABCs of CBD with Nurse Sherry and Nurse Elizabeth of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. And here we are. ABCs of CBD brought to you today by Bloom Hemp. Life doesn't give you days off. That's why there's hemp. Experience the difference that you can feel at www.bloomhemp.com. All right. So what is CBD, right? Well, we get the question all the time. What is CBD? Where is it coming from? You know, CBD is a cannabinoid.
It's a compound.
It's a compound. It's a molecule. And it's a cannabinoid is a molecule that interacts with the endocannabinoid system. And we're going to talk about that system in a minute. But CBD can come from the cannabis plant, and CBD can come from the hemp plant. And the difference between CBD from the cannabis plant and CBD from the hemp plant all has to do with the lab test. So cannabis has greater than 0.3% THC in it, where the hemp plant has less than 0.3% THC in it. So CBD is a cannabinoid. And so there's a lot of different types of CBD products on the market, and you're going to hear us talking about them. So CBD isolate is the isolated molecule of CBD. You'll hear us talk about broad spectrum CBD, whole plant 0 THC. You'll hear us talk about full spectrum CBD, whole plant with a trace amount of THC. And what's important here to understand is CBD has been around for 20 years. The United States government has a patent on it, 6630507. In 2003, the United States government took out a patent on CBD and cannabinoids and found them, cannabinoids, as antioxidants and neuroprotectants. And they stated that cannabinoids are found to protect cells from damage and decay following ischemic insults such as stroke and trauma. Cannabinoids may hold the therapeutic potential to treat neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and dementia. And we're going to get into that as we dive deeper into CBD today. So cannabinoids, what is a cannabinoid? So we said CBD is a cannabinoid that interacts with the endocannabinoid system. So cannabinoids are molecules that not only interact with the endocannabinoid system, but also the endocannabinoid dome, which we're also going to go over in detail. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, right, I have to bring in the dictionary definition to be appropriate. It states that a cannabinoid is any naturally occurring biologically active chemical constituent such as cannabidiol, or hemp or cannabis, including some such as THC that possess psychoactive properties. It's a substance that is structurally or functionally similar to cannabinoids derived from hemp or cannabis. Cannabinoid is any of several substances, such as anandamide naturally produced within the body, the endocannabinoids, which we're going to talk about, and a substance that is synthetically produced to mimic the effects of natural cannabinoids. And this was taken directly from the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Good old Merriam-Webster. Yeah. Okay. So cannabinoids. So these are compounds that are going to activate receptors. And so we're going to be talking about the endocannabinoid system because that's where these compounds act. So these cannabinoids can come in three different types. The endocannabinoids that we make endogenously, and they go by the anandamide and 2-AG. And then there's the phytocannabinoids, and the phytocannabinoids are made by the plant, and they are CBD, THC, CBG, CBN, THCV, CBDA, CBGA, the acidics, THCA. And the plant makes these compounds, and they can mimic the ones that we make in the body endogenously. And then there's synthetic cannabinoids that are made by pharmaceutical companies like Sativex and Marinol and Epidiolex. And so those also can plug into these receptors. So THC and CBD are the plant phytocannabinoids that mimic our own endocannabinoids to activate the endocannabinoid system and the receptor targets throughout the ECS in our body. They activate these receptors on the cell membranes to restore balance at the cellular level so that we can allow healing and better chemistry, biochemistry downstream from wherever we're talking about. The phytocannabinoids are about 10 times stronger than the endocannabinoids, so they bind into that receptor for a long time, and that's why it's a little different than the cannabinoids that we make, which are created and then dissipated in microseconds. Cannabinoids from the plant, like CBD and THC, can activate these receptors for 4, 6, 8 hours, so it's much different. And so this little drawing here, if you want to show it on the graph, THC is what the plant makes, anandamide is what we make, and both of them plug right into that CB1 receptor, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So yeah, if we can just advance. So this is a map of the endocannabinoid system in our body, and it shows where the CB1 receptors are and the CB2 receptors. So when we think about these cannabinoid receptors, they're going to be in main sections of CB1 are in the brain. So there's more CB1 receptors in the brain than any other receptor in the brain. So we've got mu and opiate receptors and dopamine, serotonin, GABA, glutamate, etc. So the endocannabinoid system, the CB1 receptors, are on all of these cell membranes as well. And they sort of do things that are in step with the other neurotransmitters and modulate the flow of them. In the CB2, more of our immune cells, right, in the periphery of the body, and then in all of the immune cells, which are in all of our bones and that sort of thing. So they're the ones that activate to keep us healthy and balanced really in our physiological functioning. So it really is just biology, and it's about retrograde signaling. So imagine two cells here, and we've got a little picture here. This is the presynaptic, and this is the postsynaptic. And so what happens is that these endocannabinoids are listening and observing stress signaling. And in response to stress, they will float backwards, plug into the presynaptic, and communicate with that cell to adjust and usually downshift the flow of other neurotransmitters. So that's the endocannabinoid system. It is literally just a biological sensing regulatory system that is keeping us balanced at the cellular level, and it is everywhere in our body, as you can see in this demonstration in this map. So that's a little explanation of the endocannabinoid system. There you go.
All right. And so I'm going to take it and explain it just a little bit better because, when we're sitting in classrooms, I've had people raise their hand and say, where is this system? I've never heard about it. It's not taught in nursing school. It's not taught in medical school. Just because it's not taught doesn't mean that it's not real. So anyway, I decided to call it the Green Nurses Umbrella. So I want you just to imagine that you are on the umbrella. And if you imagine the umbrella has all of these different spokes in it, and it represents your body. So each of the spokes of the umbrella represents, you have your nervous system, your endocrine system, circulatory, respiratory, integumentary, skin, reproductive, lymphatic, digestive, immune, urinary, muscular, skeletal, right? So we have 30 trillion cells in our body that are broken down into 11 organ systems, our immune system, and it's regulated by the master regulatory system called the endocannabinoid system. So the endocannabinoid system is the largest neurotransmitter signaling system in our body. It regulates all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and our nervous systems, and it regulates other neurotransmitter signaling systems. So just imagine those little fabric pieces here, these different color fabric pieces. Imagine those are the other neurotransmitter signaling systems, such as serotonin, dopamine, opioid receptor signaling, TRP receptor signaling, GABA,
HPA access,
HP access,
stress
right?
response,
Exactly.
when we're hungry,
When we're hungry. So
when our temperature is too high, everything.
So we have cannabinoid receptors on all of the cell surfaces of all of our organ systems and at the neurotransmitter signaling junction site. So our body responds to stress by releasing these endocannabinoids upon demand to float back and nudge and to correct cell signaling, to provide homeostasis or balance among all of the systems in our body. So the goal of the endocannabinoid system is a switchboard to keep our body in balance, to keep things moving and humming, keeping us like a well-oiled machine. So the endocannabinoid system regulates both the fight or flight response and the relaxation response. The fight or flight response, we can't control. The relaxation response, we can. And the endocannabinoid system helps us modulate between both of them. It is normal to go into the fight or flight response. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the endocannabinoid dome. So the endocannabinoid dome is the crosstalk system between the entire endocannabinoid system, the other neurotransmitter signaling systems, hormonal signaling systems, the microbiome, and the lipidome. So what's important about this is that mediators of the endocannabinoid dome can include not just cannabis and hemp products, but supplements, adaptogens, herbs, mind-body tools, lifestyle, meditation, visualization of healing, including other things that can support the microbiome, probiotics for healthy gut and digestion, supporting the lipidome with omega-3 and essential fatty acids and healthy dietary fats. So cannabis works better when we support the endocannabinoid system and the endocannabinoid dome. And engaging in the endocannabinoid dome improves patient outcomes because it allows us to have more predictability and precision of effects, and it can prevent adverse side effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the endocannabinoid system is this switchboard, and sometimes I'll refer to it as traffic cops as well. And it's helping us to modulate or to basically steer our HPA axis, the fight, flight, and freeze response, right? So it's same thing as the relaxation response. So as Sherry said, fight, flight, and freeze is often involuntary. It's an autonomic response. We can't control it. We get into a panic, our body's going to react. And this is laid down in neurochemistry from the time we're toddlers as far as how we're adapting to it. And we've got to train that system back into the relaxation response, where it's conscious awareness. And this takes practice and it develops over time. The relaxation response is where we rest, repair, and rebuild for further resilience. The hormonal signaling changes that are calming the sympathetic nervous system are controlled by the endocannabinoid system. Our rest and digest, our homeostasis and balancing systems, all of them are nudged by these homeostatic balancing triggers from the endocannabinoid system. And so we can stimulate the relaxation response with cannabis to downshift those receptors, those CB1 receptors in the brain, in the amygdala, and the hippocampus. Just, oh, you're not stressed as much as you think you are. So just take a breath and it's all going to be fine. And then the mind-body induced, really take a breath and it's going to be fine. You don't need any cannabis just to take some deep breaths and get yourself into the relaxation response. And then doing both combined, right? And that is really the key and what we introduce patients to because they need help. They need a toolkit to be able to move forward. And when we don't have these toolkits, we get something called an endocannabinoid deficiency. And this is just what happens in modern life as we're aging, as we're getting older. We have genetics. We may have different precursors in our body for specific things, autoimmune conditions, etc. But really, it's poor diet. It's our fast living. It's not relaxing. It's not spending time exercising, eating, some of the fast foods, fried foods, fake foods,
Artificial flavors, artificial colorings, trans fat, hydrogenated oils, and high fructose corn syrup,
which leads to obesity. And then that can trigger pain and pain signaling, and then poor sleep and insomnia, and that can cause chronic stress and trauma. people that are smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol excessively, and then polypharmacy. When we're taking these pharmaceutical pills, they're not necessarily benign, right? You need to take them for short periods of time, know what they're doing, and then stop taking them, because long term, they change things in your body, and they'll change the way that your body's responding, and the signaling gets erroneous. And that's even more why we need to upregulate this endocannabinoid system, so it'll bring us back into balance. And then, who's getting enough social interactions and touch and laughter? Not many people nowadays, right? And so this, again, is another depiction. But when the three components are working well, the enzymes that are making the endocannabinoids themselves, and the receptor targets are all in balance, then we work well. When we're not in balance, messages don't get relayed and the body malfunctions, hindering our ability to adapt to outside stressors.
Here we go. So activating the endocannabinoid system and the endocannabinoid dome, right? How do we get people from in crisis, I can't survive this, into thriving? I've got this, right? So again, when we're looking at the endocannabinoid system, if it's the most important system in the body and everything that we do or don't do affects it, it makes sense that we would take care of that system first, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Right? And so here are some simple things that you can do to influence the health of the endocannabinoid system. And you can see that cannabis and hemp is at the very, very bottom. So food is medicine, whole foods, adaptogens, supplements and herbs, regular exercise, motion is the lotion, meditation, prayer, breath work, mind-body medicine, vagus nerve stimulation stimulates the relaxation response, massage and therapeutic touch, acupuncture, chiropractic care, essential oils, aromatherapy, energy work, Reiki, reconnective healing, sound healing, chanting, music, drumming, eliminating alcohol and quitting smoking, restorative sleep and rest, social connections, laughter and play, and cannabis and hemp products. So the relaxation response cultivates an opportunity for the body to heal, right? Rest and digest. And cannabis and hemp, oftentimes we'll have patients that come to us that have said, I've tried all of these things.
The top ones.
All of these things, and nothing works. Yeah. And when I hear that from a patient, I say, you know what? You haven't tried cannabis and hemp. Let's give cannabis and hemp CBD a little nudge to waken up and open up those receptors and see if these things can start to work again.
Well, yeah. And if you use the cannabinoids to nudge our system back into balance, then these other things they sit in much better, right? Pharmaceuticals work much better, and we'll get to that. Everything works much better with cannabinoids.
All right. Phytocannabinoids mimic endocannabinoids, right? So phytocannabinoids, such as the THC molecule from cannabis, mimics the endocannabinoids to fulfill the cell signaling duties that are needed to return the body to homeostasis. So this is just a little graph just to show you the difference and how similar the molecules are. So you can see here the molecule anandamide and the THC molecule, very, very similar, and how they plug into the receptors to initiate a cellular response to correct cell signaling at the basic level. Anything to add?
Which is just why it's still with the scientists in many ways, right? This is a molecular biology and science and chemistry. And it's just fascinating. But this is what then eventually translates into clinical medicine, and we're getting there. So there are benefits to using these cannabinoids. And, we can talk about preclinical, what we know on how these cannabinoids are working from the science labs. And then we can see clinically what patients are reporting from anecdotal reports, which do add up and tell us how this is working. So we take the preclinical and the anecdotal reports and blend them. And then we can have some predictions on what we think might happen as you start medicating and supplementing with these cannabinoids. So on the physical side, it can balance the nervous and the immune systems, and then the stress response, that HPA axis, how we're being able to rest and restore and get our resilience back. And then some on the physical pain, neuropathy, especially for some cancer patients, CBD is very effective for that. Muscle tension, some of that pain, that angst that we're carrying on our shoulders, inflammation, as well as stress that we're carrying on the emotional sides. increasing mobility by reducing pain. We need to be moving. That's what keeps us healthy, right? We'll talk about that. And then increasing energy by reducing pain. And when we're able to stay active and keep moving, we have energy. When we don't move around, then we tend to get a little stagnant and don't feel as strong. On the mental side, we need to improve quality of sleep first, right? We get people sleeping, then they're going to be much more relaxed and calm, have that better center of and feeling of well-being. So decreasing fatigue, anxiety, isolation, and then improving energy, and then building resilience and resistance to stress. Feeling more empowered, feeling more like you have agency and you're able to keep going. So this cultivates an opportunity for the body then to heal when we're working on the mind-body with the cannabinoid assist.
Cannabinoid resist. And one of my favorite words is pleiotropic.
Oh, I love pleiotropic.
Pleiotropic. So, when you think about the umbrella and you think of mind, body, spirit, biopsychosocial, spiritual healing, I want you to think of cannabinoids as a blanket that's going to come and cover you. Right?
Yeah.
In effect, multiple different physiological systems all at the exact same time.
Yeah, and think about when you take CBD internally in a tincture and capsules and that sort of thing, those compounds float throughout the bloodstream all over. Once they pass through the liver, then they can activate things. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries, the inflammation here, some of the stress in my mind, some of the GERD in my stomach, all at the same time, because we've got CBD in the systemic circulation, looking for where to plug in and find where to balance.
Right. So here we go. We're going to talk about plant phytocannabinoids interacting with the endocannabinoid system receptors. And so we're going to talk about these there's a lot of different cannabinoids that exist.
About 500.
A lot of them. But we're just going to talk about the main ones. We're going to talk about CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, THC, and THCV, and how they interact in the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, so full spectrum, broad spectrum, and CBD isolate are the 3 types of CBD. And all of these cannabinoids that we're covering are also what's available in the supply chain today as well, right? So they're not the cannabinoids that are just being studied in the lab. These are live that you're able to find. And so full spectrum, you can see that we're going to have all of the different phytonutrients in there, including a little trace amount of THC. And that is the entourage effect. So where we've got the CBD and THC are the main players in the band, but we've got the rest of the rock group together. That's the entourage effect. And then when we think about the flavonoids and the terpenoids, that's the people in the stands, right? But everybody in the room contributes to the effects. As we're looking at broad spectrum, we're removing.
We're gonna give an example. So full spectrum, whole plant extracts with less than 0.3% THC. You can see here we have all of the different molecules, including a trace amount of THC plus the terpenes. And so this is an example of some full spectrum products that are on the market, right?
Yeah. So whole plant formulations, whole plant means that everything is extracted and kept intact, including the CBD, the minor cannabinoids, terpenes, cannaflavins, bioflavonoids, and trace amounts of THC, and the below the legal limit of 0.3% for hemp CBD to be sold in hemp markets as opposed to the dispensary. And the entourage effect, again, is the sum of the parts working better than any one of them together. So we want to really have that synergistic harmony of what we create with a full spectrum profile.
Yep. And then broad spectrum. So you can see here, I have a little heart because we're talking about broad spectrum. What's missing from broad spectrum? Well, just the THC. So it's a whole plant extract with the THC removed, including the terpenes. And here is an example of some broad spectrum products, right? It's broad spectrum, a whole plant formulations, including CBD, minor cannabinoids, terpenes, cannaflavins, bioflavonoids, but the THC has been removed. So broad spectrum is THC free. And broad spectrum benefits retain the entourage effect for sensitive employees.
So yeah, all those benefits, but who might benefit from this type of a formulation? Healthcare workers that are being potentially tested, commercial drivers, policemen, firefighters, anybody that's in federal employees, sensitive fields, defense contractors, security clearance, etc.
Yep. And these are just an example of 2 broad spectrum products that are on the market today. And then we're going to get into CBD isolate. Now you can see, what do we have here?
Nothing but the CBD.
That's it.
So yeah, so it's a chemical extraction where that's all that's left. And CBD isolate is the isolated molecule of cannabidiol that has been separated through a clean extraction process. It breaks the blood-brain barrier faster because it's got nothing to flanking it this time. And the benefits of CBD isolate might be to help with pain and anxiety, insomnia, inflammation, epilepsy, and can be a good choice for those who want to boost other CBD formulations as well. So you might want to take a full spectrum or broad spectrum and then have extra milligrams. So a lot of times people will take a little scoop of this. In addition, if they're going to know that they're going to be extremely stressed or maybe have a race, a lot of athletes are using this, and then right for recovery as well. So yeah, and then you can take these isolates and then put them into butter, like the CBD, CBG, CBN blend, and then make your own can of butter and then put that into your recipes and have a little bit of a measured dose all the time. So that's a really good way to do it yourself.
So an example of CBD isolate. Okay. And so now we're going to get into a little bit more about the different cannabinoids. So we're going to talk about CBD research here. So this is fascinating. So CBD is a multi-targeted molecule that binds with numerous cell receptors throughout the body. It directly and indirectly initiates complex biological changes in the mind, body, and emotions. So it indirectly affects the CB1 and CB2 receptors, but plugs into over 70 targets in the body to have that influence. And the interesting thing, in 2018, the FDA did approve CBD in the form of Epidiolex. It's a pharmaceutical version of CBD for the treatment of rare pediatric seizure disorders that do not respond to orthodox anti-epileptics, including Lennox-Gastaut syndrome and Dravet syndrome. And so this was taken from Cannabis. Cannabis is amazing. I want to say a big shout out to Dr. Uwe Bleshing, who has put Cannabis together for researchers, scientists, nurses, and anyone that wants to learn. And it's just an amazing research dashboard that he's created on the plant.
Aggregated studies.
So you can see here, and this is updated every single day. So if I went back
every week or month,
these numbers up here will change. So currently right now in Cannabis, there's over 1,400 primary studies, 281 related studies, 1,700 total studies. And then they look at meta-analysis, double-blind, clinical human trials, animal studies, and laboratory studies, and they really give research. The fascinating thing here is there is clinical evidence for using CBD for these conditions. I'm just going to stop.
You got to read the slide.
Right? This is big. So CBD, is a multi-targeted molecule, and you can see here. And each of these, if you click on them, it opens up to a series of research to support that substantiation.
Yeah. And so when you take the preclinical studies, which is how we've developed all medicine in this world, right? So you've got lab Petri studies, and then you've got animal studies, and then you've got clinical studies where we bring in people. And they have tried CBD on people in a variety of countries, and a lot of places it's been legal for a while now, 5 years in America. And so more and more testing is going on. And so now it's just, what dose do we need? How do we dial it in? And then how do we assure potency and purity from something that's unregulated, which is another step the FDA is working on, hopefully this year. Yeah.
So CBD is very powerful. CBD, obviously, because we're nurses and we're talking about it, and we've created a show, ABCs of CBD. CBD was the game changer for me, for my own healing, because it was a missing link. I thought it was all about THC, but once CBD came into the picture, I was able to dial down the THC. I was able to engage more in life and actually feel much better. CBD dialed down the psychoactivity without taking away the medicinal effect, and I was able to manage much better. And we're seeing that with so many different patients. So now we're going to talk about CBG.
Right. So yeah, when we think of this plant, we think about CBD and THC as the main actors on the stage, but all of the other phytonutrients also play a path. So CBG is another phytonutrient, and it's also a multi-targeted molecule that's going to flow through the body and activate CB1 and CB2 receptors, as well as other targets like G protein 55 and PPARs and TNF alpha and all of the other ones, because CBG is a really good anti-inflammatory. CBG is also the biosynthetic precursor to all the other cannabinoids. So CBGA is the master cannabinoid, and over light and heat and time, then it will start to segment into the other cannabinoids, and then they'll take off and develop into what they are. So it's good for analgesia, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotection, appetite, and gut supports. It's very good for healing some maybe colorectal issues, and then antibacterial, antifungal, and immune modulator, activating CB2 receptors directly, which are on our immune cells, just like THC, without having the impairment factors. It's an antidepressant and an well, it's a bone stimulant. So can help work with the osteoclasts and osteoblasts to rebuild bones. Yep. And clinical evidence on CBG with Parkinson's disease. We're still scratching the surface on exactly how this works, but it's a little bit of trial and error, but it does show efficacy. And just thinking about erasing some of the neuroinflammation can help with the connectivity and neuroprotection in the brain. So when we've got Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, these are neurodegenerative conditions. Cannabinoids like CBG and CBD are very neuroprotective. And that means it can help encase those nerve cells so that they're protected and not exposed to further trauma.
All right, CBN we're going to talk about. So CBN is also a multi-targeted molecule that binds with numerous cell receptors throughout the body, and it directly, indirectly initiates the complex biological changes in the body. As cannabis ages and is exposed to oxygen and light, it converts THCA, CBNA to CBN. And so CBN benefits have been an analgesic, antibacterial, anticonvulsant, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotectant, anti-insomnia, and can be an appetite stimulant. And there's clinical evidence for using CBN for these particular conditions: cerebral palsy related syndromes and epilepsy. And you can see the studies that are here as well. Mm-hmm. CBN, and now we're going to talk about CBC.
So CBC, cannabichromine.
So,
yeah, and CBC is, again, another cannabinoid. It's a minor cannabinoid. It's not found in very high concentrations. There's a few products that have some good potency of it. But CBC is good for analgesia, antibacteria, anti-cancer. It's really being studied for those measures. Antidepressant, anti-epileptic, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, and again, working together with CBN, CBG, and CBD especially as that anti-cancer patrol. So
and CBC is a CB2 agonist, and we love that because CB2 agonism really helps work with the immune system, and it doesn't impact psychoactivity. Patients they have a really good response.
And CBC and can be a little bit energizing. Mm-hmm. So some patients might want to take this in the morning.
Yeah. So CBC. And then now we're going to get to the favorite, THC. Okay. Mm-hmm. So THC is a big one, is a multi-targeted molecule that binds with numerous cell receptors, CB1 and CB2 in particular, and does have biological complex changes in the mind, body, and spirit. So you can see here, there is clinical evidence in using THC for all of these conditions, right? Take a look here. Acute pain, adverse effects.
Well, THC is mainly for pain, for sleep, for appetite, when we think about it, and really stimulating the receptors directly. So very small amounts are needed. Direct agonist at CB1, CB2 to really nudge this system and replicate anandamide and 2-AG to rescue our body so it can get back into homeostasis. And then THCV. THCV is a newer phytocannabinoid that's a minor. It belongs to the THC group. Activation of CB1 is a little bit different. It's more of an antagonist. An antagonist, so THC on CB1 is going to make us hungry. THCV on CB1 is going to turn the other way and make us not hungry. It's really amazing, the pharmacology on how these work in the body. But being a CB1 antagonist, it's going to help us have focused energy, be able to not be hungry, and cognition, depression, metabolism. It's going to be really good for obesity and diabetes and weight loss, and it can improve insulin sensitivity. So folks that are struggling with diabetes or pre-diabetes, your A1C is up, trying some THCV high potency products or CBD THCV, you really can't buy it very well direct, but CBD and THCV is supporting each other in a better formulation anyway. So that's what we're going to want to try in a first-hand approach with people that have some metabolic issues before the metformin. Let's get you on some THCV and walking. Right? Yeah.
All right. And now we're going to talk about terpenes. So we just covered some of the major cannabinoids, and then we're going to talk about what terpenes are. So terpenes are organic compounds that produce specific smells, tastes, and they're found in cannabis, essential oils, plants, trees, and foods. In cannabis, the terpenes help ward off attacks from animals, insects, and fungus during the growth cycle of the plant. And when the cannabis plant goes through the curation process, the terpenes become oxidized by the air, resulting in what we know as terpenoids. And so terpenes are simple hydrocarbons, whereas terpenoids are a modified family of terpenes with various functional groups and an oxidized methyl group, depending on the number of carbon units. So terpenoids are classified as monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, diterpenes, and sequestered terpenes.
Yeah, depending on how many carbon units.
How many carbon units? Yeah. So terpenes in general contribute to the entourage effect, and they have their own healing properties. Again, the entourage effect suggests that utilizing all of the cannabinoids and the terpenes together provide a more potent medicinal effect and their gains. And so the whole of the plant is generally greater than its individual parts. And so we're going to talk about some of these terpenes.
Yeah. And so, the first three that we focus on are some of the ones that are more calming, right? So beta-caryophyllene is a sesquiterpene that binds with CB2 directly, and the TRPV1 receptor as well as PPAR. So these can really activate immune, anti-inflammatory, and some anti-anxiety, and also healing for our tumor cells, right? Beta-caryophyllene is really good for an anti-cancer approach. Its scent is spicy and peppery with solid, warm, woody aromas and an undertone of citrus. Beta-caryophyllene is commonly found in cannabis, especially after decarboxylation, and maybe gastroprotective, analgesic, anti-carcinogenic, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, anxiolytic, and anti-epileptic, as well as being neuroprotective. The other sources that you can find beta-caryophyllene is hops, cloves, and black pepper. Myrcene is another one that can be calming and relaxing. It's a monoterpene that tastes like mango. Myrcene makes THC more biologically available by increasing the saturation level and speed at CB1, which may boost some of THC's properties. Higher concentrations of beta-myrcene in cannabis tend to produce feelings of heavy, deep relaxation and what some people might refer to as couch lock. And the other potential properties of myrcene are analgesia and anti-inflammatory, anxiolytic, and sleep-inducing effects. You can find myrcene also in mangoes, thyme, cardamom, and lemongrass. And finally, linalool is the other terpene that is a monoterpene. It's floral, lavender-like with a scent of spiciness. There are good potential health benefits because it also acts on multiple receptors and biochemical pathways. Linalool is also anxiolytic, neuroprotective, antidepressant, anti-anxiety, antihypertensive, analgesic, and anticonvulsant properties. A lot of times these three are used together with a CBD, CBG, CBN formulation that is going to be very good for neurological and immune and sedating properties. Get people to sleep.
All right. And now we get into the more stimulating terpenes, right? So the most common terpenes. So pinene is a monoterpene that is the most encountered in nature with a pine-like woody scent. So natural sources of pinene include rosemary, conifer, pine, cedar, redwood, coriander, thyme, and cannabis. Pinene exhibits an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, antibacterial, analgesic, and bronchodilatory. So just think of when you're outside and you smell the pine trees and you just kind of feel like you you wake up and you become alive,
Clear.
that smell and clear. It's very clearing.
Mhm.
Terpenoline is a monoterpene with a complex aroma profile very similar to lilac. It's present in low concentrations in cannabis, citrus fruits, lilac, and tea tree oil. Terpenoline may also have sedating, anti-anxiety properties, anti-cancer, antibacterial, and antioxidant properties. Limonene is relatively stable monoterpene and the second most abundant terpene in nature after pinene. So smells of lemon, citrus, orange, turpentine. It's found in natural sources such as citrus, juniper, lemons, limes, oranges, and cannabis. And limonene has properties that are anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antidepressant, and anti-anxiety. Humulene is a sequestrin terpene that, while common, is often found in very low concentrations. So humulene provides an earthy, humus-like aroma and has properties of anti-inflammatory, anti-asthma, antibacterial, analgesic, and it may have some anti-cancer activity. I have found in my experience working with humulene that it can be very, very stimulating for people and can suppress appetite.
Yeah. So perfect for the THCV CBD formulation in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here we go. This is just another of all of the terpenes. So I found this beautiful image just to show of all of the other terpenes that are found, some of their medicinal properties. And then also Canakey's put out a beautiful information on some of the clinical trials that are double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical human trials with proven therapeutic effects using these studied terpenes. And they have 18 studies on linalool, 10 on limonene, eucalyptol, 8, pinene, beta-caryophyllene, bisphenol, boreneol, myrcene, and geraniol.
Just the potency of plants, right? This is the power of nature. All of these are phytonutrients and they complement the cannabinoids and the terpenoids, and they all have their own medicinal benefits. And it's a beautiful thing. So we can have symptom targeted therapies. When you put them together and we have terpene and cannabinoid groupings, now we can start to approach conditions and symptoms in little groups, right? So when we were looking at this, agitation, right? Somebody's anxious. We want low THC, a little bit of CBD, linalool, and beta-caryophyllene, which are all going to calm. Same thing with anxiety. We're starting with CBD, low dose THC. You don't want too much THC. It can trigger anxiety in some people. And again, linalool, the calming terpenes. When we're looking to treat psychosis, we're only going to want to work with CBD. THC can be counteractive and counterproductive in psychosis. Pinene and limonene, think about clarifying and getting cognition so that it's bright and clear. Anorexia, we want to use THC, CBG, probably CBN, not THCV.
No, not humulene.
Right. So aggression, we're going to want some THC, CBD, and linalool. And you might see this with some autistic kids that are harmful to themselves. Depression, low doses of THC, limonene, antidepressant, and getting people a little bit more energy, and then CBD to round things off. For pain, we're going to want CBD and THC along with some beta-caryophyllene. For memory, alpha-pinene, THC, and some CBD and CBG. Neuroprotection, CBD, THC, CBG, and THCV, keeping those nerve cells intact and alive and healthy, and reducing beta amyloid plaques when dementia is forming in the brain. THC first, because it activates those CB2 receptors to clean up those macrophages, to get those glial cells to really clean that stuff up and get the brain healthy and functioning again, along with the other entourage effects.
There we go. So safety and dosing. So when we're, as nurses, it's really about safe consumption. We're guides, we're coaches, we're problem solvers. And so when we're teaching about cannabis as medicine, it's really important that we teach about safety and dosing. And the goal of taking cannabis is to take the lowest dose to get the therapeutic response below the threshold of being impaired. And so finding the Goldilocks dose is your sweet spot, right? And it's going to be different for everyone. So we teach to start low and go slow, microdosing to mimic endocannabinoid system signaling. Remember, the endocannabinoid system is going on and off all day long. And so you don't want to be taking big, giant blasts of cannabinoids. You want to do it little, microdosing, just like you don't eat a whole pizza, you have a piece of pizza. You don't have a whole pot of coffee, you have a cup of coffee. Right? You don't have a whole chocolate cake, you have a slice of cake.
Mm.
So very similar. You want to take a little bit. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime, and as needed. And so choose your primary formulations. And we talk about chemotypes. So CBD-rich formulations in the daytime, chemotype 3, THC-rich formulations in the evening, or as needed, chemotype 1, and then the 1-to-1 ratios of CBD to THC, chemotype 2, and stacking to keep keeping cost low, tolerance low, and combining different products using a topical, a tincture, a capsule, or a gummy, or even inhalation in small amounts. Toolkit, yeah. And safety with other pharmaceuticals. We have to be careful with the CYP450 enzyme. So any drugs that interact with grapefruit, we suggest that people take their pharmaceutical first, wait an hour, and then take the cannabis formulation. Journal, track your results, talk to your provider, and call us. And we're going to talk a little bit more about chemotypes really quickly here. This is one of my favorite slides.
Go for it.
And the reason why I want to bring this up is because we're trying to get away from strains, right? And so chemotypes, cannabis chemotypes refer to the amount of the primary psychoactive cannabis constituent, THC, right? How much THC is in there? The amount of the non-psychoactive cannabis constituent, CBD, and what is the ratio? So we look at chemotype ratios 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to start with 3, 2, 1, right? Chemotype 3 is for me. Chemotype 3 is there is more CBD than THC in that product. There is less than 3% THC in chemotype 3. And full spectrum products, they're non-impairing, they're very safe to start. It promotes the relaxation response. It's available in all 50 states. Example is Bloom Hemp. Chemotype 2 is the optimal balance. It's the 1-to-1, the CBD to THC. And this is the best response for most issues. However, these types of products need to be purchased at a dispensary.
Right. A 1-to-1 oil like a Sativax, which is approved in 30 different countries. Just a 1-to-1 oil, the same thing you can find in dispensaries here. But yes, it does need to be in a dispensary, as does chemotype 1.
Yep. Chemotype 1 is more THC than CBD, very dose dependent effects. More THC is very good for sleep, appetite, and pain. But like we said, a lot of what we can do can be managed with full spectrum CBD products. So where do people shop for products?
Well, first of all, get this certificate of analysis or the COA for any product, because then it tells you what really is in that product and on the potency of THC and CBD, because breeders will breed something either to be high CBD or high THC. And then they'll market it directly to patients in either one of those downstream trajectories. So hemp is really legal in all 50 states. Most of it is bought online or in trusted CBD shops or practitioner offices, CBD boutiques. And this would be your CBD isolate, the broad spectrum, the full spectrum, and again, Bloom Hemp is a sample. High CBD is cannabis products, which is chemotype 2. So 1-to-1, that's going to be in a dispensary. You can also go into the caregiver market. So some states still have a medical the medical states still allow for caregivers to be able to grow and distribute some of their products into the patient community, and then do it yourself. You're able to grow your own plants. So perhaps you can grow your own Harlequin strains, which is more like a 1-to-1. And then high THC, again, in the dispensary, in the licensed supply chain, you're going to want to make sure that that potency is something that you're going to want to try, right? Don't just go for high potency THC. 35% is not necessarily what novices need to be trying. Something like 15% is going to be a better first try for you on the THC potency. And really just there's so much to explore, but start low, go slow. And then there's a lot of different product mixes, right? So as we're looking topicals and tinctures and capsules and edibles.
And topicals in itself, lotions, creams, balms, salves, roll-ons, right? Tinctures, oils, drops, sublingual. We have edibles. We've got capsules, gummies, candies, drinks, the sublingual strips. Then we have transdermal patches, suppositories, inhalation, flowers, oils, concentrates. So there's so many different ways to consume cannabis.
And this is why we talk about stacking, because stacking is really the art of using all of them together, but in very small amounts. So you're not building tolerance on any one route. and they're synergizing and working together. So just like the cannabinoids and the terpenes play nice together, it's good to take a capsule for your long-acting, long-term, because it has a different pharmacokinetics or how long it lasts in the body. And then the tincture is episodic dosing every few hours so that you're able to modulate whatever you have going on. And then topicals just as needed when you've got surface area tension and pain and you want to lessen the inflammation and some of that pain signaling directly on a local level. So there's flexibility, and the bud tenders in the dispensaries can walk you through a lot of these.
Yeah, love the skin you're in. Your skin is your largest organ, and it's great. Topicals are a really good start to cannabis as medicine. So dosing protocols for medical cannabis for patients with chronic pain. So, I did a lecture. We taught at Point Loma a couple of times. And in my lecture, they wanted to know, are there dosing protocols that exist? Is there research on this? And there is actually. So dosing protocols for medical cannabis with patients with chronic pain. And what they recommend is you starting off with what? CBD. Right? You start off with CBD, and they're very conservative. So this is the part I want you to understand. So it says they start off with 5 milligrams of CBD twice a day. This is the model that they use, and it's all about titrating up every couple of days and then folding in THC later. Right? It's small amounts of THC. You can see they fold in 2.5 milligrams of THC.
After reaching 40 milligrams on the CBD. So this is like, that's one dropper a day of a good Bloom's Hemp CBD because it's 40 milligrams. And we really do like to start people out with CBD first because A, it wakes up the endocannabinoid system. B, it's non-impairing. C, it's pleiotropic, acting on all of those receptor target options. It's safe, it's effective, and it's going to help set the stage for THC, which can then come in and be more strategic.
But if you're using a full spectrum product, a Bloom Hemp full spectrum product that has a trace amount of THC, it's actually going to be nudging those receptors very, very gently.
So good point. If you've got 40 milligrams of CBD, you might have 1 full milligram of THC in there.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
So dosing. Okay. We wouldn't be good nurses if we didn't talk about side effects. Okay. Really, really important. It's important to know that I have not seen side effects because we've been working with patients.
We help people clinically approach this, right? And so it is dosing parameters. Dosing controls everything, which was why we say dose dependent. And this is also biphasic, which means that a low dose and a high dose can do opposite things. Yeah. Low doses can be stimulating and energizing of all of the cannabinoids. High doses is more sedating of all of the cannabinoids.
Yep. So generally overall, pharmaceutical interactions should be monitored with CBD dosing over 100 milligrams a day. We generally I have not seen very many side effects, and that includes with THC as well. THC dosing over 20 milligrams a day, you should be careful. So, side effects do happen, adverse effects do happen, but they can be mitigated with dosing and with timing in particular.
Yeah. And divided dosing, I just want to also add. So 100 milligrams a day, that should be in 2 to 3 doses.
Yeah.
Same thing with 20 milligrams of THC.
You would never
5, and 5
yeah.
is the way
always
that you dose.
In divided doses. Yeah, so when
correct.
We're talking about, we want to mimic endocannabinoid system signaling. One of the things I want to talk about too is the side effects versus the effect. Okay, so whole plant, and also whole plant formulations and microdosing, working with cannabis clinicians decreases the potential for side effects. But some of the side effects are actually the effects that some patients are looking for. So think about the patient that's drooling. They welcome dry mouth, right? The patients that have ALS. Patients with glaucoma welcome the red eyes because it shows that their vessels are dilating and decreasing the pressure. The patients that have nausea or cachexia or difficulty eating welcome the munchies and welcome the increased appetite. And those patients that have issues with insomnia, PTSD, or hypervigilance, they welcome being drowsy, sleepy, and forgetful. And those patients that are depressed welcome the euphoria.
It's good to smile again.
It's okay to feel
for
good.
Sure. Yeah. And even these, are sporadic, right? The side effects, as you build up tolerance, they diminish, right? So that's the other important point to make. So interactions with, there are drug banks, Drug Bank Online and drugs.com. People can go in there themselves, right? And you can enter THC plus your drug and look at interactions and see what you might need to be cautious of. But essentially, central nervous system sedation, right? So if you're already taking benzodiazepines, opiates, hypnotics, other drugs that are making you sleepy and dopey, cannabinoids might potentiate that. So we want to really either space them or really control dosing. And the goal is for us as cannabis clinicians is to reduce the dosing of the pharmaceuticals, because we can move you over towards natural dosing, and people can eventually find freedom. And then over a period of time, you can even reduce the cannabinoids as your body starts to heal itself. And, we work with people on a long-term strategy and a short-term strategy. What do we need to do for this week and this month? And then what can we look forward to maybe by the end of the year?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and shopping for safe CBD, right? Green Nurse
approved. You have vetted it.
That's it. We have been vetting CBD for a very, very long time. And so we want to make sure that, the CBD is from cannabis or flowering strains of hemp. We want to make sure that there's transparency of the company, website functionality, address, email, phone number, customer service and support. Do they have good manufacturing product practices, certified? Are they organic? Lab tested for purity, potency, and contaminants. Are the labels accurate with potency and serving size? You could have a bottle of 300 milligrams versus a 3,000 milligram, and one dropper of a 300 milligram is 10 milligrams, where one dropper of a 3,000 milligrams is 100 milligrams. And that is a big difference of a dose. So it's very, very important to know your potency and serving size for safe dosing, and don't go cheap. CBD can be expensive. And so that's why we have the Nurse Line to help you choose products that are good for you.
Mm-hmm. So in conclusion, we have an invitation, right? We all have an endocannabinoid system, not because of the cannabis plant, but because we make molecules in our own body very similar to the plant that interact with this endocannabinoid system. Everything we do or don't do affects the endocannabinoid system, how we live our lives. So we educate on the therapies that support the endocannabinoid system and mitigate the side effects of those therapies that may cause an endocannabinoid deficiency, right? The pills and the procedures and some of the lifestyle things that are not in your best interest. And we'll talk about that. Caring for the endocannabinoid system, the largest, most important system in the body, helps regulate all of the other systems and getting them in line. And then putting its health first is really what we do with the holistic tools and phytocannabinoids to keep it healthy and strong. And clinicians have a responsibility to learn about the endocannabinoid system and how it mitigates all of the other things and modulates the other systems, because the endocannabinoid system is real, and patients need to be able to discuss this with their providers and talk about root cause healing rather than just putting Band-Aids on year after year after year. So regardless of belief in cannabis therapeutics, the endocannabinoid system can be modulated in lifestyle modalities and really helping take care of yourself in nutrition, connection, movement, and rest, really focusing on those. And modulating the endocannabinoid system may hold therapeutic potential for all human diseases. That was said by Paul Picard in the 2003 patent filing from the US government at the NIH. And, it really is true. When we think about the pleiotropic nature of cannabinoids, it's not snake oil. It's going into the systemic circulation, adjusting and fine-tuning throughout our entire body, and being able to relieve multiple symptoms at once. So
cannabis is not the end all be all.
There you go.
It is a tool in the toolbox, acting as a pleiotropic workhorse, interfacing with multiple physiological systems at the same time. As nurses, we teach harm reduction, education for safe consumption, and the holistic tools to properly care for the endocannabinoid system and the endocannabinoid dome. Join us, try some great CBD, spread the news, and help us change the world. We have an ecosystem. Again, Elizabeth, let's plug ourselves.
All right. So Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. Yeah, we both started in 2015. We're not new. We've been doing this for a long time. And we built this structure and framework to hold all of the products and services that patients need to be successful in this new paradigm of healthcare, on having these holistic and cannabinoid option as part of their toolkit. So our network has programs for patients and providers. It's run by other nurses and our pharmacist for CBD education and lifestyle support. So go to network support.holisticcaring.com, and you can join for free. There's a free introduction to cannabis course, so you can just go right in there once you get in, and then a free patient portal, so you can communicate and chat with your peers that are also using cannabinoids. And hey, what you doing? And then there's a free 7-page medical cannabis guide on our website. So holisticcaring.com, go to the resources tab, and you'll be able to sign up for the newsletter and download that right away. We have the free monthly clinical conversations, which is, where we break down a condition and say, here's what's going on in your body with cancer. Here's conventional care and how they treat it. And here's how cannabinoids might be able to be stacked on top, and the research and the protocols that you need to get started, along with our nurse lines, our free care plans, etc. So we have everything you need in that network.
Yes. And then follow us on our socials. We have a ton of socials. Bloom Hemp website, Holistic Caring website. We've got blogs on Bloom Hemp. We've got blogs on Holistic Caring. And we have Facebook pages, Facebook groups, communities. Truly a ton of education to educate and empower you all to make choices.
We're trying to reach out all over the world. So if you see something you like, share it, please, and tell somebody else, because everybody needs to hear that hemp CBD and other phytonutrients may be a game changer for them too, just like it was for us.
It was. And we hope you enjoyed the ABCs of CBD with Nurse Sherry and Nurse Elizabeth at Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. And remember what it's all about. It is about living your best life and helping others do the same. Thank you for joining us.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses Group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.